I have to unmute myself. Hope everybody is having a good week. We'll get started here in just a moment. Well, I've got a couple minutes after, so I'm going to go ahead and kick us off. We've got some basic information to go through here at the start. So hopefully others that are joining and beyond before we get too much into the meat of it. Just want to thank everybody for joining today. My name is Dan Edwards. I'm one of the leaders here at the DUG4 Manufacturing Meetup group. I'm joined today by my co-leader, Tom or Tad, however he wants to go by, from Lesker. He'll actually be doing our presentation today. But before we get to that, I just want to run through a few slides. Just ask everybody. We've got hopefully have a pretty big group attending. So if you're not speaking or anything, if you want to stay on mute, feel free to use the chat. Raise your hand if you've got questions. Things like that. We'll definitely have some time for open dialogue as we go through. So our agenda for today is to kind of go over some basic Dynamics user group meetup updates, take a brief look at a couple manufacturing things that are coming here in the latest release of manufacturing on F&O, the .45 release. And then Tad's going to share with us some best practices around advanced warehouse management related to manufacturing, the whole WMS side. And then we should have some time at the end for some open questions. So I do not see Bobby. So again, here's your leadership team. We'll share this deck out. I'll post it in our meetup group. But if you ever have any questions about this meetup, you have ideas of what we should cover, anything like that, feel free to reach out to any or all of us. We're always looking for topics and speakers for our upcoming meetings. So just an introduction. I know many of you probably are familiar with the Dynamics user group. They are the sponsors of this meetup, large community, and also the leaders of what is called DynamicsCon. So DynamicsCon regional is coming up here in Texas on September 17th, and there's going to be more coming in 2026. I've heard there may even be more stuff coming before the end of the year, but I guess it's still in early development and can't be announced yet. So hopefully we'll hear more about that. And then the other thing to keep in mind is DynamicsCon. I hope everybody has already signed up for Las Vegas. If not, there is a code out here. Looks like you stole the code from the Ohio Regional to give you a discount. So you see that here. This is the slide Bobby sent me, so feel free to use it. That code should still work as we go through. And if you want to know more about what's going on with the Dynamics user group, feel free to scan that QR code. That will help you join your local groups and get email on new events as they're coming out. So with that, gonna just jump in. And I did see a comment around Business Central. We've focused this group mainly on finance and supply chain, not opposed to talking. We're trying to keep it very industry focused versus product focused. But I know Tad and I both come from the F&O side. So if there are those that are on the Business Central side and want to help in leadership from that side to make sure we're covering manufacturing on Business Central, we would be welcome to have that. Oh, and Jody says the Ohio discount didn't work. Well, shame on Bobby for putting that in the slide. Yeah, it was supposed to expire after that event. So if I get another code, I'll make sure to put it on our manufacturing group meetup. So with that, again, if you are involved in Business Central and want to help in leadership, please reach out to us, and we'll definitely include you in that so we can make sure we're including more Business Central information as well. I've been trying to learn some of Business Central manufacturing myself, so I would love to have somebody that can help me out with that. So with that, on the F&O side, .45 is in first release right now. Preview came out back in July. General availability, if you're self-updating, I think one of my environments, I'm actually doing that as this meeting goes on, came out this month, and then the auto updates are going to start next month. For a full list of what's changed, I've got the URLs there, but you can always go out to the Microsoft Docs. The one I like is really this last one, release plans, because it gives you some videos and gives you some detail, not only on what's .45, but what's coming beyond that. So I went through those feature lists, and there were a few things that I thought were pretty relevant to us in the manufacturing side. So enabling quality control with acceptance sampling is coming out, and lean manufacturing for the planning optimization solution is coming out. Those are both in preview with .45. And then they are improving operations with a new release of the warehouse management mobile app. And I think this is kind of perfect timing because I believe Tad and his team is going to talk about that some today. And then improving the number pad control for the production floor execution interface. So those were kind of the keys I saw around manufacturing. Haven't had a chance to play with them too much, but definitely recommend you go out and take a look at that. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Tad, let him take over sharing and bring to us some advanced warehouse management best practices for manufacturing.
I'll certainly try to do right by everybody. The content that I wanted to bring today's conversation is a remix of some of the content that was presented in Ohio at the Ohio Regional event, and I'd like to thank Avanade for their content, which I'll put up here in just a second, and Nicholas Lutold, who gave the presentation in Ohio. The reason why I find this very interesting is because the Kurt J. Lesker company that I work for is both a manufacturer and a distributor. So I get a chance to see what happens in a distribution company, buying product, putting it on the shelf, sending it out to a customer. But I also get to see the manufacturing side of the company, bringing things in. Some stuff's in inventory, some stuff goes straight to manufacturing, all the different production order, manufacturing steps, finished goods, quality control, getting the material out to the customer. And my perception is that not a lot of manufacturers realize some of the benefits of some of the warehousing tools, and how some of those warehousing tools can really assist in a manufacturing environment. What I would like to do is, when I bring up the slide deck here in just a second, is I'd like to step through, show you a little bit about what we do. So I'm not gonna speak to every single comment that's in the slide deck. That was Nicholas's content. So I'm just going to use it as a guide for today's conversation. I'd like to find some opportunities to go a little deeper with some of the other people who are on this call and find out what everybody thinks about the intersection of warehouse management and production management. And especially if you have some experiences where you've seen some benefits from mixing them together, or if this is very new to you, I'm looking forward to a discussion today. So please feel free to put stuff in the chat or raise your hand. I don't have my chat up at the moment. Bring it up here. Just a comment from Jody. Sorry, so I'll keep that chat on the side so I can see if anything pops up. Give me a second here, and I will throw the slide deck in there, and then we'll jump in. Okay. Everybody should see the full page with the wonderful downtown Columbus, Ohio. And some of us on this call are from that neck of the woods. Jody Kronk, who's got her camera on, is from that neck of the woods. And she's had the benefit of being in a variety of different customer companies with some manufacturing and other experiences. So I lean on her quite a bit. So all right, let's just jump through the stuff that's not related to Ohio. And there's Nick in the upper left-hand corner from Avanade, and I do thank him for the slide deck. We're not going to be able to touch on every single one of these things, but when you think about warehouse management and how it's usually sold within Dynamics, it's very common for people to say, oh, a sales order gets released, and then you go through the picking operations, and then you take it to the packing station, and you send it out to the customer. Unfortunately, that misses a huge swath of the capability that's in warehouse management. There's all kinds of functionality in the system for doing cycle counting and keeping track of what's actually on the shelf and making sure that all of your inventory is under control. Well, the warehouse isn't the only place that needs to do that. Your production areas, there's the opportunity to define storage locations in your production areas. Those can go through cycle counting as well. There's material movement. I need to move something from one location to another location, either for convenience or space constraints, or to put it closer to where the parts are going to be used. And those transactions to move material from one location to another, those don't care if it's a warehouse or if it's a production area. So that's another aspect that crosses between those boundaries. Fundamentally, as far as Dynamics is concerned, it doesn't really differentiate between production stock and warehouse stock. Inventory just goes into an inventory location, and then the business processes are there to manipulate the inventory in that storage location. So your production area should probably have inventory locations defined in it, just like your warehouse has inventory locations defined in it. If you're in manufacturing and you're like a production supervisor or a shop lead or something like that, if you are not in direct communication with your warehouse or logistics teams and sharing best practices on doing your transactions, it's an opportunity for you to cross-pollinate and say, hey, I need to be able to move my material around, or I need to cycle count my material to make sure I have everything. And you should be able to work with your logistics teams. So we're going to try to touch on a few of these things, and after we get through some of the fundamentals, we're going to try to do a little bit of a quick demo. We're not going to be able to do exactly everything that's in there, but my colleague Dan Rogan is on the line here, and he's queued up a few of the examples that work within our organization. So the big things that you can get out of warehouse management is you can know where all of your inventory is at all times. I've heard from a number of manufacturing companies where the material comes in, it just sort of goes into WIP, and it's sort of lost in the ether of somebody has tribal knowledge that the parts are in the corner. And then when a production order comes up, then the right person has to know where the material is to get it to the machine and do whatever processes. That works at a small scale, but as your scale builds up, obviously things fall apart. If you want to be accurate about making sure you're getting the right material to the right place, if you want to be able to get material to production right before it's needed, just in time, things like that. These are all things that that warehouse management can assist you with. When you start using WMS, if somebody moves a piece of material and they do the transactions, either in the web interface or in the warehouse app, which we will show in a little bit, you get a bunch of different other benefits. You get to be able to look in the computer at any time and say, I see how much inventory we have, where it is at any given time. You can do other policies of saying, I have 5 production orders that each need 2 pieces. So instead of moving 2 pieces at a time, I'm going to go and I'm going to grab, let's say, grab 20 pieces from some bulk location and move them and put them right where the machine is. And that'll cover the immediate production needs plus the next couple of production orders. So that can reduce the number of movements that you need. And then if you actually know where everything is in your building, then you can have better utilization of your storage, less stuff just sort of building up over time and taking up space. Now, I can say all of this about all these benefits because our organization went through all of these learning curves. We used to have tribal knowledge of where everything was stored. We used to manually write out pieces of paper and give them to somebody who gave them to somebody who gave them to somebody to go move material. But as we've leveraged more and more of Dynamics, we've gained a lot of these benefits. Dan can tell us a little bit more about that in a little bit. So not every component of warehouse management needs to be used all at the same time. But if you know what is available in warehouse management, you'll have a better chance of deciding which pieces of it make sense for your organization. So we talked a little bit about inventory management, knowing where everything is at any given time. If you get advanced shipping notices from your vendors, you can really build out a very robust inbound processing set of business processes. I can say that really doesn't work for our organization because we get a lot of small package, last minute. We don't get a lot of advanced shipping notices from our vendors. So we're very reactive and ad hoc on our inbound side. But as we grow, we're starting to push some of our vendors to give us some more advanced shipping notices, which will allow us to do more stuff on the inbound side. We're really trying to leverage a lot of the quality management. So we're doing sampling and other things to take material that's coming through either when we receive it from our vendors or even quality management processes during production orders or after production orders, and doing our measurements for quality management, and we're really leveraging that. All of our warehouse personnel and a large number of our production personnel are actually using the warehouse app on a mobile device. Some of the mobile devices are Honeywell barcode scanners. Some of them are somebody's cell phone, a couple of different things, but we have a large number of people in the organization using the warehouse app. I can't tell you everything that's going into version 4. I do know that version 4 is coming. I do know that there's documentation on how to upgrade from version 3 to version 4 and things like that. We're in the very early stages of evaluating that, so so I can't tell you exactly what's coming in version 4, other than it's coming and I better be ready for it. We use a lot of the outbound processes to move material from either a shelf that it's on or from a production area, move it to an outbound dock, go through the process of generating the packing labels and the shipping labels from the carriers, do some LTL shipments, things like that, and get everything ready for the carriers to arrive, get it on the truck, and get it on its way. And then our production and our warehousing teams were collecting picking times and number of products. We've got weights and measures. You can always do better on weights and measures by collecting more data, but we've got weights and measures, see how much weight we're moving, making sure that people aren't being asked to lift too much stuff. We're tracking things on license plates and try to figure out how long it takes to move things from one location to another. And so it's very transactional. We are not lean. And there was that discussion of lean in regards to the production floor execution. That's not our organization. And you might have different experiences depending if you don't actually need the full labor management, but it's in there if you need it. You've probably seen diagrams like this before where you've got every single module that's in the system. We're not going to dwell on that just yet, and we're not going to dwell on the digital architecture other than to say that at the bottom here, you've got mobile equipment, and then you've got devices like your Honeywell devices and things like that you can connect to that will actually interact with the warehouse management. We're running all of our warehouse management off of the single instance, but if you have split operations and you need to actually put a standalone warehouse management and warehouse execution system in one facility, there are options for federating the warehouse execution across multiple facilities, and we can talk about that if somebody has some questions about that. So I'm just going to pause for a second here and see, do we have any comments or questions? Am I hitting a nerve with anybody? Am I describing anybody's operations that you have to deal with? Is there anybody who'd like to come off of mute and add to the conversation? Okay.
Tad, I'll throw out one thing on your warehouse management app. It's a complete rewrite. They changed the tool set, and it's going to have new features around themes and more advanced camera controls, things like that.
Good point, Dan. One of the other things that really caught our eye is they are changing the way that the warehouse app talks to the server and trying to make it more robust, less likely to get stuck and have timeout issues. Just trying to make it more efficient in how it communicates back with the server, so that users don't get stuck waiting for the user interface to pop up. I know that if you don't have enough Wi-Fi coverage for your devices and you get stuck in a corner of the warehouse or a corner of production area, it can sometimes take a while for the existing app to update, which
Yeah.
then makes IT have to go put more access points all over the place.
Yeah, it's
But
going to
it's
even
supposed to be
have
making
some,
improvements.
yeah, it's going to have some Wi-Fi diagnostics built into it too. So.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, we'll keep going here. Now, when you are planning out your warehouse, often warehouses are going to have rows and rows of shelving, and you go up and down the rows, find the parts. But if you're building out a production, if you have a production facility, you probably have something very similar. You have your raw material coming in, you have all your production machines, you might have your inventory in some part of your building. You might have point of use inventory right next to the machines. And each of those places where you're storing inventory are opportunities to use the location records in Dynamics. So in our organization, we have every production site has a raw material warehouse and a finished goods warehouse, and then each one of those warehouses has a set of locations in it. There's a lot more raw material locations in the raw material warehouse than in the finished goods warehouse. And then when we set up all of our production orders, all of the BOM lines are usually calling out to grab material from a raw material warehouse location. And then the finished good is set up to be putting the product into a finished goods warehouse. And that just helps with the flow of material. But because we set all that stuff up, then we know that we can have the warehousing functionality move the material to the right place in the production area. Production area can know that all that material is arriving to them, and so they don't have to go look for it. They can execute all the production steps, put it away in the output location for that production order, and then warehousing processes pick up and say, I'm going to move material from the output location to wherever it has to go next. It could go out the door, it could go back into inventory, it could go to another production area, and the warehousing functionality takes care of all of that movement. And whenever the production team has a question about it, the warehouse team can help answer the question for all those processes. Okay. Skip over location profiles. Now we're going to get into the mobile device. If you are using it on the web interface, then you're going to start seeing these forms that start talking about this concept of work. Work is always a pair of actions. You need to pick up material, and then you need to put it down somewhere. And in between the time that you pick it up and you put it down, the computer's keeping track of this is the person who supposedly has it in their hands. So it's really good for keeping track of those short-term things. And when you record that I picked it up, you say I picked it up from this location and I put it down in this other location. You can do all of that from the web interface, but the web interface is more there for your a supervisor or a manager to just double check on what's going on. It's really not conducive for doing those transactions all day. That's where the mobile device kicks in. So Microsoft has provided this first-party mobile app. It runs on Android, and like we said before, it's coming out with version 4. When you authenticate to that device, then it comes up with a login page where you can put in a badge number and a PIN number to identify the person to the device. It's a very low level license that a person needs to interact with the mobile device. And then it has a variety of menus on it, which we'll show here in just a bit, that you can scroll through to get different actions. And then you can interact with the interact with when you do the transactions. It can show a variety of information about the transaction, maybe a little thumbnail sketch, and it's keeping track of who's doing the action, when they do it, and all of that information is getting recorded in real time back into Dynamics so you keep track of everything. Everything is configured, the app and what it looks like and which menus are available. That's all configured in Dynamics. So you don't actually have to be an app designer, an Android app designer. All of that's handled by configuration within Dynamics, which makes it easier. And you can tweak which menus and which functions are shown to different users. So now let's get into some of the functions that are more production specific. So I'm going to make an assumption that everybody here knows something about the production orders in Dynamics. If you don't and you'd like to raise your hand, we can make sure that everybody's on the same page. But production orders consist of the production order that says we're going to make something, and it has all of the BOM lines, bill of material lines that go into making that production. During the processing of a production order, you can release the production order, and then you can also release all of the BOM lines to, in this case, to the warehouse. And then those BOM lines can get turned into work to say move material from one location to another location in your production areas. Now the question is, where do you move them from and where do you move them to? The way that the warehousing works is it will run through a set of processes called location directives, wave templates, work templates. There's a whole set of configuration in there, and it will figure out that the material that you need for your production order is in a particular location, and it is needed to go to a particular resource on your production order, and it will come up with work to say move it from wherever it is to wherever it needs to go to for that production resource. Each production resource has its own input location, and that's a location code that's defined specific function. This is the location code for input, and there's a specific location for output. So any raw material that's coming in is going to get directed to that input location. The thing to keep in mind about that is when it's moved to that location, that material is still in inventory. It's just sitting at that location, and it doesn't come out of inventory and go into your work in process until you actually transact it on the production order. Luckily, there are certain things you can automate. You can say automate the consumption of the material out of your input location into work in process. And that takes a lot of the transactional steps out. But if you feel like you need to have a manual process, you can do that as well. So, and that's one of the misconceptions that I see a lot, is that the way that Microsoft has done some of the language in the application, they'll say, "Oh, this is raw material picking," but that's raw material picking is the work to move the material to the input location, but it doesn't actually pick it to the production order. So that always has to be done as a secondary step, either manual or automatic. And when people start using that same language interchangeably, then a lot of people can get really confused. But we'll back it up just a little bit. So you have a production order, you release all the material to the warehouse. The warehouse takes care of moving the material to where it needs to be for the production order, and then the production order will consume it, and then actually you can start doing your work on your production order. That takes care of all the input stuff. Now, once the production order is done, and you go to your production order and you say report is finished, and you put some quantity into inventory, that just puts the material into the output location of whichever resource was the last resource in the production. At that point, it's just sitting in inventory. And then that's where you can have additional processes after the fact that will pick up that material from the output location and move it to wherever it needs to go. Maybe it needs to go to an outbound door to leave the building. Maybe it needs to get moved from that output location to an input location for another production order. That's entirely possible. But all of that movement is a warehouse management process, not a production process. And that's where they start to blend a lot. And I have people in our organization who talk about the warehouse management as a production process, and some of the warehouse management folks talk about the production steps as warehouse management processes. It is a survivable thing to get through when people start using the language interchangeably, but it can get a little confusing from time to time. Okay. We talked about reporting stuff. Reporting is finished, and then stuff goes into a put away. Stuff goes into report is finished, and then you can have actions to handle what happens to go put the stuff away. Options for slotting, but we're not going to go into that. There are options for replenishment. So let's say that you're constantly using the same widget over and over and over again at a production resource. You can set up rules to say, let's keep a quantity of 20 of these widgets at this production input location at all times. And then you'll use them one or two at a time on consecutive production orders. They'll automatically get consumed out of inventory onto the production order in work in process. And at some point, it's going to notice that that production input location goes below a threshold, which can actually fire a signal for replenishment to say, go to the bulk location area, grab 50 pieces, bring them over and refill the production input location with an additional 50 pieces. And then they're just sitting there, and then you use those until you deplete that and you get another replenishment. That has a really huge impact on productivity, because now you're not going and getting parts one at a time every time that you use one. So if you have common parts and you plan them to be in a specific point of use location, and you want to make sure they get replenished every time they get down below a certain level, replenishment is a very common warehouse process that can be used for production cells, for example. Ways to do that. We're not going to be able to go into that. Slotting is, if you don't know what slotting is because you're not doing a lot of stuff in warehouse management, that's okay. Slotting is the action of trying to measure how often a part is used, how popular the part is, what characteristics does the part have, and trying to put it in the correct location in the warehouse, or in the case of production, putting it in the correct place in the production area, so that when you need to go get it, it's not as cumbersome. There is enough data by using the warehouse management. There's enough data that you can pull that out and do analysis on it and try to figure out what are my most popular parts, how often have I had to move them, what quantities did I move them in, things like that, because you can pull all of that statistical information out of all of your work transactions. Once you have all of that, then you can build up an analytical model for how you would want to reslot, and then you can start changing your strategies for what is the default location for this item in the warehouse. Should this be closer to the machine or farther away from the machine, depending upon the popularity of the components that go into that resource. Let's see. I'm going to talk about that. Lastly, as I was saying, we have lots and lots of metrics that you can get not all of these views are out of the box. So for example, we have no idea what the picture of your shop floor or your warehouse looks like. So you'd have to customize some dashboards for your footprint. But then some of the other types of visualizations, Microsoft does provide some of them out of the box. I'm going to go ahead and ask Dan to take over the screen here, and then we're going to try to jump in and show some of these functions on the mobile device handheld, just to give everybody a sense of that. And so sharing there. And while he's getting that up and running, I'll open it back up for additional comments. Jody, I know you always have a comment about manufacturing, and since you've been able to move back to manufacturing, where do you want to give us any anecdotes of your prior experiences that you always wished you could do more tracking of inventory?
Nothing I can think of specifically right now. I know one of the challenges we're working on right now is hitting the right cycle count. Methods for locations. We have 3 production facilities plus a parts warehouse, or parts and service. They're kind of separate, across the street from each other. So that's kind of where our focus has been lately, is basically how to get lockup cage cycle counted appropriately.
Okay. How much of that inventory that you're referring to sits adjacent to the production areas versus in a separate distribution only type of warehouse?
So the area we're working on right now is basically there's a cage of inventory inside the production facility. So there is movement that takes it from that cage to line side. The next step will be cycle counting line side locations, which will be a challenge because they don't really have locations.
Well, that's the trick, is to get people to recognize that they'll benefit from locations.
Yes. So lots of opportunity.
Okay. Anybody else have any experiences you want to share? Okay. Well, we'll move on. Dan and I work together, along with I believe Tracy's on the line here as well. And Dan, as our business analyst, is helping to get production and warehousing personnel to get the most out of the different functionality that's in the system. And so what I've asked him to do is to basically demonstrate where some of these production transactions show up, both in the web interface and what production personnel or warehouse personnel would see if they used the warehouse app, which is on the right-hand side of the screen. So, Dan, why don't you take us through the quick demo that you've put together for just a couple of different transactions?
Yeah, sure. So I have 2 production orders queued up, each very simple. One operation on the route, one on-hand item on the bill of materials. Got it to release status. So we're going to release to the warehouse, which will generate work, and then we'll see how that looks in the mobile app, moving that inventory to the production input location. So we'll release. This will take a second to process the wave. We will get work shortly.
And is
that.
the release
Go
to
ahead, Judy.
warehouse, is that something that can be automated?
Yes. And in fact, we do have release to warehouse automated with our processes.
I'm gonna make sure I'm in the
So-
right warehouse.
So why don't we describe what somebody's seeing on the left-hand side?
Okay, so yeah, after releasing the production order to the warehouse, that generated a wave that got processed and then generated work to move the inventory from its existing regular location Z01 A02, whatever it was, to, as Tad mentioned, a production input location. Oh, I don't want to this again. Work details. To a production input location, which we'll see in the work details, to then be consumed once the production team actually starts the production order. So STG stage 3MC2 is our production input location, and so this is where the item is inventoried in warehouse 30. We're going to move it to the production input to be automatically consumed. In the
And
production
right now, this is a very simplistic case where you're only going and grabbing one part. But if you needed to grab 15 parts and move them all to one location, you'd see pick, and then a put at the end to put all the parts in a place. So, and the transactions that are on the left are really, although you can do the transactions on the left-hand side, it's intended to be executed by somebody using the benefits of the mobile app.
So within the production menu in the mobile app, there's production pick. It'll ask for the work, or as Tad mentioned, license plate earlier. Just use the work for now. And these can be barcoded as well, as we have in our warehouse to aid this, so we're not typing in on the mobile device.
And there are different options in the configuration of the mobile app for which things do you want to have validation of. Do you want to validate the location or the part or the quantity? And you have to choose what level of validation makes sense for your business for traceability purposes.
So this is confirming we're delivering them to the STG3MC2 location. And once that completes, we'll see our work update on the left. To closed.
So we see that that's done. And then if we stay on that work screen on the left, we can actually look at the transactions or the user actions, which are in the little blue buttons down in the line section at the bottom. Assuming it actually opens. So we can see that pick took place at exactly 2:46 and 38 seconds today. And this information is available for analytics if you need it. And if you also need to see who did it, you can also see that that it was actually done by user ID 08S100517, which is a badge ID. And so now you know who to blame if something went missing.
So from here, we don't have it set up, but Tad, do you want to speak to the start production side of the app?
Yeah,
go through the PFE.
Yeah, in our the way we have it set up is, well, sorry, you can actually put a menu item on the handheld, on the mobile app, if you want to start a production order. So if you recall the status of the production order that Dan was working with, it was in released status, and then we released the lines to the warehouse. But you can't actually do any transactions on the production order until you actually start the production order. So there is an option on the mobile app to actually say start this production order. But that's not the only way to start a production order. We have actually got it configured where we automatically start the production order the first time somebody tries to transact on it on the job card terminal, or in this case, the production floor execution screen. Production floor execution is the new interface that's taking the place of the old job card terminal. If you're a new customer, you probably only know about production floor execution. If you're an old customer, you might still be using job card terminal and planning to transition. We're in the transition phase ourselves. But the first time you go to use the production floor execution, which is what's shown on the left. What's shown on the left is not a mobile app, it's a web app, and it's intended to be sitting on a display somewhere in your manufacturing area, or a multitude of displays. And you can walk up to the display, identify yourself with your badge ID, and then log in. And the way that it's currently configured, the way that the production floor execution is designed, it's got big buttons, and it's intended to work with a touch screen or a tablet, but you can use it with a mouse. So on the right-hand side is the warehouse management app, which is for material movement types of things. On the left is production floor execution, which is more for the execution of the individual tasks within a production. So did you start that yet, Dan? Or are you going back in?
No, I wanted to show the login. I'll start it now.
So we're going to go ahead and start quantity 1 on this production order. And the way that we have it configured is we have it set up that any material that's in the production location of the step you're starting, any bomb line materials that are in the production input location will get automatically consumed into the production order at the time that you start the production order. So, so when we moved the material to the production input location, it was still in inventory. When we started the production order, that's where we automatically consume it out of inventory from that input location into work in process. That's our choice to configure it that way. If you want to have control and do the start separately from the consumption, separately from somebody actually transacting their time on the production order, it is possible to stagger those out and do them as separate steps. We just have them merged for our business process. So now, well, what thing were you going to do next, Dan?
Well, I was going to report progress, and then we can RAF via the mobile app.
Yep. Is our UAT going slow?
Yes.
It does that.
By design to some
Okay.
degree, right?
So we've just put what, some fraction of a minute of time onto that production order.
Yeah.
And amazingly, the part is now done. So we could go ahead and report it into inventory.
So just need to change my warehouse. We picked from raw material. We're going to report as finished into finished goods.
Imagine, if you're familiar with it, imagine a water spider role person in your organization running around to each of the different production areas and having that water spider person be the person who's actually reporting the goods as finished and taking them out of the production output area, or taking them out of WIP and putting them in a production output location. That's a possibility for somebody who can run around with the app.
And as Tad said, if you saw the screen before it updated, there was a bunch of information there, where it was going, that sort of thing. Can add validation there. We have it very simple, just confirm, and now that is reported as finished. And from an actual production order standpoint, it can now be ended back in the UI via either batch or manual process.
So yeah, if we go ahead and we open up all the journals for that production order. I think you might be on the wrong production order.
Yeah, I'm on the wrong.
So you can see that the picking list that's on there is the consumption of the material out of inventory into work in process. Then we did the action of charging some time, which is the job card, and then we did the report is finished from the warehouse app, which generates the report is finished journal. All those things on the left are things you could do manually in the web interface, but strategic use of the app can really streamline a lot of your processes. And you still end up with all the transactions where they would normally show up in finance and supply chain.
And then kick off other material movement or work or what have you to continue on its journey.
Yep. There's other options that you can do on the warehouse app. You can consume extra materials to your production order if you want your business to be able to do that. Other status changes, things like that. There's a lot of power in there, and if you haven't talked to your implementation partner about that, it might be a good conversation to decide what you want to take on and not. And if you if they don't have any good suggestions for you, find other people in the community, and we're happy to share what's worked for us and give you an opportunity to try something that works for you. So Dan Edwards, what sorts of questions should we field?
I'm curious to know how many are using the warehouse management app today, or is this topic hitting home with everybody? Maybe a show of hands or yet. Okay, I'm seeing.
Thank you, Alan. Are we going to have to go around and call on people one at a time and see if the
Because I know as a consultant on the site is something we show and push to our clients, but I kind of move out of the implementation, so I don't always hear what gets implemented and if everybody's using all of this capability. So
okay?
kinda
Why don't we
curious.
go ahead? Why don't we go ahead and close out the screen share for right now? And if you are able to, I'd love to get everybody on camera if we can, and let's just see what sort of conversation we can.
Hey, Tom, I'm going to go because it's easy. So thank you for letting me in this group. I'm a fairly new Business Central user. I went to DynamicsCon for the first time and thought I wanted to engage more with this group. So it's more picking up back maybe to your initial comment. And somebody, I think there was somebody else on the call that had the same sort of thing about Business Central. Yeah, your comment about this being more of a vertical type of a discussion, not a product discussion. I'm not so sure, right? So no,
Well, that's where
none
we'd
of this
like
is
to-
resonating with me for Business Central.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely open to topics like that. This one was focused specifically on some
product
features
Got it.
in Business Central, but you know, again, not being Business Central ourselves, knowing
Right.
what you guys are interested in talking to, because there are similarities, but there are some huge differences too, like the whole warehouse
just
management app.
Maybe just explaining a little bit why you're getting crickets on that.
Okay, that's fair enough. Fair enough. So let's ignoring that it's dynamics, but I'm assuming, Tim, that you're here because you said BC, but are you coming from a manufacturing production company trying to do those functions in BC?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
We are struggling a little. Our implementation a year and a half ago was a little bit more accounting centric, and I don't think we really got from our implementation partner some of the subtleties about manufacturing. So trying to catch up really quickly.
Well, you're not the only one who gets the short end of the stick. Accounting usually gets the majority of the attention during an implementation, and the operational departments usually get the second tier of attention. So that doesn't make it right. In fact, it's probably a sign that it's very not right. But it is a survivable thing, and yeah, to the extent that we can help you with any manufacturing business processes, we'd love to help you with that. But Dan and I both have to come up to speed a little bit more on some of the BC colloquialisms that it has that don't really exactly match into finance and supply chain. But there is that I see that Microsoft is doing its level best to try to make some of the vocabulary and capabilities similar across the two products. So I don't think it's going to be a completely foreign conversation for us.
All right, so there's hope. Good, I'm with you.
Yeah, I'd just say there's some more advanced, like the shop floor control and the warehouse management of what I've seen. Those capabilities are not additional interfaces like they are in F&O. You can do shop floor control, but you do it in the BC interface. So little different approach they've taken, and more discrete assembly in Business Central where we have process as well in
process, lean,
yeah,
and but
Kanban support.
And yeah, and well, that's part of lean, but but my organization is just doing discrete. So so some of what we're doing would fit into Business Central. Some of the other weirdnesses that finance and supply chain makes a little bit different is the difference in inventory values in different warehouses, a lot of the multi-currency and then intercompany and a lot of those complexities. But if you're just getting into a production order and consuming bills of material, the screens will look different, but a lot of the concepts are the same. So Alan, you said yep before, so you get some.
Yeah. So I can share a little bit. You know, we use the WMS. I was looking at implementing the shop floor. I really like the way it was looking, but then we have an MES that we're going to be using instead.
Well, tell us a little bit more about the organizational structure or the software configuration that's got this interaction between a separate MES and the ERP and stuff like that. What's going through the organizational decision making on how to proceed?
You know, they've used this in another entity, right? So I'm kind of in a startup mode with a JV, kind of coming in and setting it up for us.
Okay.
My situation is a little unique. I'm the only supply chain guy, so I'm having to make everything as automated as possible. And keep in mind that we don't have the resources out on the factory floor to be able to have everybody moving stuff.
Okay.
So it's pretty, let's see, so think of a skeleton. I see all the things I can do, but I don't have the resources to implement them.
Okay.
So that's basically it, you know. I was curious about one thing you mentioned.
Sure.
You said that there's a lower license that you could use just to have warehouse folks.
A lot of the warehouse personnel can get by with just using an activity license. If you're just moving some of the materials around, a lot of, depending upon what you give them as security roles, it's highly likely that they can get by with just an activity license without needing a higher level supply chain license. Now that presumes a couple of things. It presumes that they're doing physical movement of materials, but they're not doing any financial postings. So packing slips are a financial transaction. Product receipt journals are a financial transaction. Anything that's a financial transaction will elevate them to needing a higher level license. But there's nothing that stops you from having your warehouse personnel do physical transactions, and then you can batch the financial transactions to be done by a single elevated user instead of having to have every individual person have an elevated license.
Yeah, so that's helpful. Thanks for sharing that.
Now you have to be very careful with with how you assign roles. And if you start modifying roles and say, "Oh, I'm just going to give them this one little thing that they can do," sometimes that can accidentally bump a roll up to needing a higher level license. And we've made that mistake a couple of times, and we're still trying to claw ourselves back from an overcommitment. So but it can be done.
Got it. And I guess you know, if I could just ask a question, my other one is like, how are you guys, you know, handling the costing? Because I'm inclined right now to slowly roll out, you know, costing in production and just charge the bill, you know, the material cost, and then let finance handle that. But I fully want to use the routes and, you know, direct material, all of that, direct labor, overhead.
Okay. I could certainly give you our answer, but Jody, with her accounting background, might be able to give a better perspective of what would finance need to sign off on before you make your final decision.
Gosh, it's been a while, tad, since I've played in it. Um, I've only been back in manufacturing for a few weeks now. I know that here now we're just we basically have a route step at the end that's consuming all of the labor, actually, and all of the production or all of the material. I mean, it's a great tool if you have a pretty good grasp on what your costs are.
Right.
And if they're, I don't want to say static, but consistent. If there's a lot of variability, you know, you may want to gonna have to get finance to sign off on the cost variance. I assume standard cost.
Yep. So I'm looking at a hybrid right now, right, where I'm doing FIFO with all of the raw materials and semi-finished goods, and then for the finished goods, using standard costing to roll them all up.
Okay. Yeah, Dan probably, Edwards probably has a little more input on that.
Yeah, FIFO and D365 finance. That's fun.
Right.
I have done that before.
Yep.
Most of our clients are weighted average.
Okay.
Yeah, that seems to be the best. And then, yeah, it just really depends how complex you want to get. You've got to build out that costing sheet. You know, setting up your different resources, your different machines. Then if you want to get into applying overhead and all of that, you know, I would say from the accountant side, you know, it just depends how they want to look at cost of goods sold. They're going to have to tie that all out, obviously tax-wise later. What do they want to see? And it can impact margin, right? You know, what do I want to see on the margin of the product? You know, if I'm paying commissions and all of that. So it's a lot to take into account. I have a client, it's actually a Business Central client that I do some work with. They just load it. They do material cost, and then they have just a loaded amount based on what warehouse and things that came out to adjust their cost for commissions and other reports. So different ways to attack it. It just really depends what that finance team wants.
Got it. Okay.
And kind of how complex your product and your process is.
Yeah.
If you have I take widget A, widget B, and I make widget C, or even if I take parts 1, 2, and 3 to make widget A, parts 3, 4, and 5 makes widget B, and then I come up with a finished goods, that's a little bit simpler versus I build a fire truck from the ground up.
Right.
Kind of deal.
Jody still has nightmares of that.
That was by phone. We had a lot of serialized products actually. Be able to get cost
That's
as close as
sorry,
possible.
I didn't mean to interrupt. I guess
No, you're fine.
I was just joining this to kind of see what other folks are doing. I'm kind of in a little bubble by myself, and I get to decide. So there's a lot of ways to skin a cat with D365.
Well, then they all let you decide until they run their reports and go, hold it, those aren't the numbers I wanted.
Right. Yep.
Well, we'll see. I've modeled everything out outside, so I know exactly what I need to put in. It's just a resource constraint.
Yeah.
But yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks.
You don't have to wait for the next DUG4MFG meeting to follow up if you want to reach out at a separate time.
Right.
I mean,
I appreciate that.
The point of the community is that you're not as alone as you think you are.
Right.
Yeah, and that's one thing. Also got the forums on DUG too, so you can post some questions out there, and you'll get not just those of us here. You'll get full international support. Many people around the world use those forums.
Got it.
Anybody else have thoughts, comments, questions? Because we left the last few minutes just anything general manufacturing.
Ideas that we should delve into in the future.
Yes.
I hear costing isn't going to be in our future.
I like the
it's
idea of a
everybody's
costing
future,
sheet.
right?
Yeah,
Well,
the other thing I think, Tad, would be like where you were talking about is not the same licensing conversation we've been having across the community, but how to efficiently your license dollars for manufacturing, what you can do with a device or an activity license, and then post with a batch.
Yeah.
Just some efficiency modeling that way.
Okay. I'm taking a mental note. David, you were good enough to put your camera on. Do you have any thoughts percolating there?
Yeah, well, actually, I was a little bit like Tim, kind of first time in this group, and my client is mainly in an industrial distributor, so they do less manufacturing, but they were talking about putting on a WMS to sort things out in their warehouses. So that's why I kind of saw the agenda. It was rather appealing.
Okay.
So basically, I was mainly in a listening mode and taking in all of your everything that you shared. So it's food for thought for me, for sure. Since they do a bit less manufacturing, I kind of learn a bunch of stuff that they don't do, but that was fun.
Okay. Good.
I'm actually a project manager for them, so it's I'm a bit far from the floor and everything, but since I get to do the planning and it's always nice to know what the different tools are actually doing and working.
All right. Anybody else? Denise, Daniel, Brandon, anybody else have any thoughts, comments, questions we can kick around? Okay, well, I guess hearing none, hearing none. I'll jump to the closing slide. Just let you know we have our final DUG for manufacturing scheduled for November 13th. Still looking for topics for that, and we had a couple of them come up here, but definitely reach out to myself or Tad about topics for that, or if you've got case study you'd like to go through, anything like that, we'd be happy to have you share with the group and get that out there for you. So again, if there's nothing else, we can go ahead and give everybody a couple minutes back in the day. I'm sure we can all use that, and we'll wrap up.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Have
Thank
a great
you.
day.
Thanks all.
Have a nice day.